So you spent 13 years with two commando and Australian military, and now you find yourself as an operator with CSOR. How did you find the transition?
I actually, the transition wasn't that steep in respect that the Australian Army and the Canadian Army are very similar. However, when I first got to Petawawa, that was a bit of a shock when I was driving around the base and I thought I'd gone back to Korea. Now I didn't fight in Korea, but I thought we were fighting in Korea because the equipment that was there was a bit old, a bit aged. The MLs that were cruising around, they looked like they'd just come straight from Korea.
Right.
And I think some of them had. But
Sadly.
the transition, it was, it was very easy because of the British system that both armies are actually built on. So it wasn't overly hard. I think the only issue I had was saluting because we salute different to the Canadians. So that was always a bit of a shock to me. But yeah, all in all, the people are exactly the same. The warriors that I was able to, or fortunate enough to serve with in 2 Commando were no different than the warriors that were being trained and actually training us at CSOR.
Right. So now, with your time with CSOR and your career here, I noticed you had quite the impressive rack of medals. So where did you end up going, if you could talk about it?
Oh yeah. So with the Australian Army, before going to Canada, I was fortunate enough to serve in East Timor. I then went to Iraq in 2003 for the hunt for weapons of mass destruction
Right.
in the Iraqi Western Desert. I was fortunate enough to serve in Afghanistan, and then I did a small, short stint supporting the Australian Embassy in Lebanon during the crisis that occurred in 2006 when Hezbollah was bombing Israel, and
Right.
Israel decided to take that matter into their own hands and did a ground war across into Lebanon. So the Australian government sent a small a small defence group to help the embassy set up the processes to get Australian citizens back to Australia. So did that. And then the last thing, I think the last operational deployment I did with the Australian Army was the security for the Commonwealth Games that was held in Melbourne in 2007.
Okay.
So then we go to Canada, and I was fortunate enough as finishing my Special Forces course in 2011. We ended up in Libya at the end of the year to help the Canadian Embassy during their time when Gaddafi was running around before he was actually assassinated.
Yeah.
Just outside of Misrata. Funnily enough, 5 degrees of separation. We were actually in Misrata the day that occurred.
Really?
So
Wow.
it was pretty interesting, yeah. So
Okay.
and then so service in Libya, then deployments to the Caribbean for training missions, and then also into Africa,
Yep.
where I was fortunate enough to serve with yourself.
Yeah.
And
There's a couple of missions we've been on, so it's
yep,
been good to see.
yep, yeah, 100%. And then my last one was to Iraq in 2017.
Okay. So I actually came out in 16 from Iraq, so I think we just missed each other on that one. But
Yep.
no, it's great to see you back again. But so after the military, I know you've started volunteering with another organization. Tell us a little bit about, is it Team Rubicon?
Yeah, so I was very fortunate. after I had the vehicle accident that actually stopped my army career. I was just trying to work out what I was going to do. Didn't know what I was going to do. And thankfully, the CEO of Team Rubicon Canada is actually Brian Riddell, who actually is an ex-SF operator officer who had been, I suppose, poached or talent scouted to be the CEO of Team Rubicon Canada and get them the leverage or the momentum to create the organisation that we see running around now. So they are a disaster relief organisation. And so I started, Brian came to Seesaw and actually gave us a talk about it. Now, he actually talked to some hard hitters that weren't thinking about releasing. Probably that's probably 20 years down the track for them. However, I was in the audience and I was being released. So I reached out to him, got involved, and earned my grey shirt because we're all very proud to be known as grey shirts. And I helped initially during COVID in Ottawa to do Meals on Wheels because their actual volunteer base were all the at-risk people. So they didn't have people to actually provide the meals for the people to deliver. So myself and a couple of guys would go in every, I think it was once a week for about 2 or 3 months, and we would just pack meals for the deliverers to then deliver to the people that had actually, we're in lockdown at that stage. We all know what that was like, so they were locked down. So, so we did that. And then the day after, I was released from the Canadian military, being the 12th of September, because I was released on the 11th of September. I'm still trying to work out if that's a good or bad omen. We'll wait and see.